Terror Era made sound waves at the end of the 2000s within the Cybergoth community, showcasing them as one of the best to dance into the future with. I know the looks might pass in judgment, but if it wasn't for this group, the current landscape of EDM and how crazy 3D visuals have become during events such as the Las Vegas Sphere, electronic music wouldn't be as popular as it is to showcase on social media. And I will get more into that later in this video. My first experience with Terror Era was through web pages like VampireFreaks in 2010 after having been introduced to the Cybergoth community from past relationships, but also wanting to know more about this amazing underground rave culture. I've done videos on both communities and those will be linked in the description. Terror Era would be my go-to alongside other artists like Studio X because of the nostalgic but futuristic feel of that time. Nowadays we have artists like Rez or Gesaffelstein that are more mainstream within dark electro, but during that time EDM had catered to bubblegum radio play, at least here in the US. This group would bring its fans industrial vocals through tracks like Domination, but have a look into the future, providing us with hard kicks and a rave-like atmosphere. My favorite track by them to this day is Lightstorm because the intro to the song, as cliche as it sounds, brings me to old 90s racing games. And hell, even that one beat from the Fast and Furious known as Race Wars. But Terror Era would find a footing within industrial dancing through people posting videos on YouTube, and soon after, they would disappear from the spotlight. Would this group actually change the landscape of current EDM, or would it be a forgotten rave culture of the past? From a crazy neon rave appearance to creating a fan base behind industrial dancing, Terror Era would be the next phase of dark electronic music in the early 2010s, creating a path for the future in EDM. It is interesting to see how underground the current atmosphere we have with electronic music was through artists such as Terror Era, but it was definitely formed from consistency. DJ Air of the group, otherwise known as Joel or Neon Virus, would be the face of this dramatic shift. After having performed at a few events around Madrid, Spain within rave culture, DJ Air or Joel would create T3 in the late 2000s. Through some of my videos, I had stated that MySpace was the start for a lot of artists, and Terror Era was no exception to that type of feature. Through demos released in 2008 that had a futuristic appeal and a few live events, T3 would make a statement worldwide, creating a fan base with not only the crowd, but also other DJ performers within electronic music. The Lightstorm track, which I had stated earlier, would be the prize to fame. Around 2010, they would sign to Mutant E or Mutant Records, which had other industrial agrotech artists like Experiment, who had also been very successful within the Cybergoth community of the time. And let me just say that this sounds cringy now, but I was industrial dancing to both. Terror Era would go on to create 3 albums under the Mutant label, but looking into it on Spotify, it does say Dark Tunes owns the rights. And going one step further, T3 would be featured on their YouTube channel in 2016. This would lead me to believe that the group had been signed over to another record label. But as most success goes, at the end of the 2010s, they would face a tough decision, leaving Terror Era a project of the past. But was it? In the spring of 2019, T3 would announce on Twitter of the time that the group had one last appearance through events such as the Electro Army Festival, and they would then part ways. There isn't much out there on why the group split, but what I could find is that their presence on social media was getting smaller. A shift happened within the Cybergothic community after 2015, and it had become less of a norm for artists to continue on raving. You can see this with groups like Extise, who had been popular around Terror Era's success and are still making music but have less of a following. You really just had to be there in the 2000s and 2010s because platforms like YouTube and VampireFreaks had made Cybergoth and the music behind it blow up. But it wasn't just the lack of a social media presence behind the group, as the labels who had backed Terror Era had small resources to push their artists. With the changes changes within MySpace and VampireFreaks dropping the online interaction with music sharing, it would lead to a disappearance. Now, I have dug into some of the social media accounts behind the members of T3, and a few showcase very little promotion of the group, at least from what I could find. Others had their accounts hacked throughout time, and its main creator, known as Joel or DJ Error, would carry the weight of the band through multiple accounts, web pages, and YouTube channels that either have not posted in years or have been scrubbed from the web with the page not found error. However, just because something seems like a failure does not mean it is, because in the 2020s, Terror Era would influence the current landscape of 3D visuals within EDM. Terror Era had become a beloved group within rave culture, but it wasn't just some cybergothic trend that would fade. DJ Error, or Joel, who was seen as the creative talent behind the project, would go on to expand his values. After T3's split, Joel would become the CEO of Telepixel, which offers artists 3D visuals and a unique lighting experience for their fans. It was pretty difficult to find some of this information, but through his personal Facebook account, he would link Telepixel as the go-to, which is pretty rad, I have to say. Now, some people might have doubts about these findings because of the sponsored brands behind this venture, but if you take a look into his other YouTube channel known as Neovirus, you will find that DJ Error and Terror Era would be involved with the current landscape of EDM. Joel would start a team of artists and designers under Telepixel, giving an artistic value to electronic music. You can even see him work behind the stages of popular events like EDC and Ultra Music, which is literally just insane. Terror Era wouldn't be just some underground dark electro group. They were the face of the future, pushing EDM into the next era of rave culture. Even with those neon dreads and rave-inspired beats, Terror Era forever changed the industry. I have been wanting to make a video on this group for some time because in the 2010s, I was listening to Lightstorm and Domination on repeat while being a little mall rat. They inspired me into creating some of the music that I have out now, and I do remember seeing them through forums and YouTube videos as well, and just thinking about how futuristic they were of the time. Now, this video is coming to an end, and I find it very fascinating and interesting just how far Terror Era has come in electronic music and just how much influence they have towards rave culture. Just because somebody looks a different part or has different life experiences does not mean that they are not successful. And with that being said, Terror Era will go down as one of my faves within EDM and rave culture.